In this lecture, we are going to learn how to initialize the I2C peripheral. Right, so till now you understood the concepts of the I2C peripheral. So now we are going to write the code and write the functions for initializing the I2C on our microcontroller, that is STM32F407. So let us open our Eclipse IDE and first copy this template and make a copy of this template. So just copy and paste it right here and name this as I2C, right? Okay, now your project is ready. So now open the project, go to the drivers, into the BSP, and right click on this include and go to new and create a new header file and give it a name i2c.h. Similarly, right click on this source folder and inside new make a new source file and give it a name i2c.c. Right. Okay. So we are going to make two functions for I2C basically, right? That is I2C init and I2C MSP init. That is for initializing the GPIO pins and setting the interrupts. Okay, so first of all, what do we need to do? So let us include the necessary header files that are required. So what are the header files that are required? So hash include stm32f4 underscore global dot h, right? And the next one is hash include stm32f4xx underscore hall dot h, right? So these two header files are required. So this global basically contains all the basic functions of the microcontroller and some of the important macros, commonly used macros also. And the hall, this gives us access to all the hall drivers that are present in our project, right? So after that, let us declare the functions that we are going to make. Okay, so the first function that we are going to make is void I2C underscore init, right? And we aren't going to pass any arguments in this. Okay, and the next one is void I2C underscore MSP init, right? So these two functions we have to make. So we have basically declared both of these functions here. All right. Okay. Now let us go to our. Let us save this file first, and let us open our hall drivers for I2C. So if we go here in this hall drivers, go to include and find hall underscore I2C dot h. So what are you going to do? So in this you can see the structures, the handlers we have to configure, right? So this is our main handler, that is I2C underscore handle type def. We have to define it in our header file of I2C. So just copy it and paste it over here, right? And let us give it a name hi2c 1 hi2c1, because we are going to use I2c1 in our project. Let us give it a name hi2c1, right? And we have to declare this globally, hence we will add the keyword extern. Okay, so now our header file is completed. Okay, now let us go to our source file. Let us save this first and let us go to our source file. So first of all, let us include the necessary header file, that is hash include i2c.h. Okay, and here also we will have to define the same handler, that is this one. That, so I'll just copy it and paste it over here. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to make our initializing function. So void I to c underscore init, right? Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to initialize the port clock. So what is the port clock? On which port does this I to C pins reside on our microcontroller? So they reside on GPIO port B of our microcontroller. So for that, go to this legacy, open this legacy.h file, and just scroll down below. Okay, so if you scroll down, then you will find clocks for all the peripherals as well as ports. So you have to select GPIO clock be enable. Okay, so just copy this and paste it over here. Okay, like this. Okay, so now your GPIO port for I2C is enabled. So now let us start using this structure and let us configure one parameter, all the parameters one by one. So I'll just copy it and paste it over here. So what is the first parameter that we need to use or configure? So it is instance, that is which I2C are we going to use? So we are going to use I2C1, that is I square C1 we are going to use. Okay, and then after that, what is the next thing we need to configure? So now this is the function for initializing the I2C, right? So just there is another structure or another handler for initializing inside this this structure. So let us select that, and inside that also you can see there are several elements which are basically the main components or configurations that need to be done for initializing the I2C. So let us consider the first one, clock speed. So our peripheral, this I2C peripheral, it works from 100 kilohertz to 400 kilohertz in our microcontroller, right? So we will use it at 100 kilohertz. So let us write 100 kilohertz. So let us directly give the value 100 kilohertz. Okay. Now what is the next parameter? So for that, hi2c1 dot init dot. So the next thing is duty cycle. Okay. So what duty cycle do we need to use? So for that, go to your hall drivers. So in that they have provided different macros for configurations. Okay. So in fast mode, you can use this. You have these two options. Okay. So we will select this one. We will copy it and paste it over here. Okay. Then what is the next one? The next one is own address one. So these things, these are not required because own address is required when we are using our microcontroller as a slave device. Okay, so we will just give it a value 0. Okay, then the next parameter is, let us type hi2c1 dot init dot. So the next parameter is addressing mode. Okay, this one. So for addressing mode, go to this header file, and in this you have two addressing modes, that is 7-bit and 10-bit. So what is the length of address that you want to select? So let us select a 7-bit. So I'll copy it and I'll paste it over here. Right, then hi2c1 dot init dot next parameter is dual addressing mode. So we are not using dual addressing mode. Okay, so for that also they have provided macro. If you scroll down, then you can see dual address enable and disable. You have the option. So we will select this one, disable. Alright, and we'll paste it over here. Then the next one is own address 2. Now the own address 2 is configured when we are when the dual address mode is enabled on our device. Okay, so as our dual address mode is disabled, so this will also be 0. Okay, the next one then the next one is general call mode. So general call mode is also disabled. We are not using that either. Okay, so for that also go to the header file and select the disable macro for general call mode. Then the next one is no stretch mode. Okay, so for final one, no stretch mode, we are not using our I2C no stretch mode either. Okay, so we will disable this also. Okay, so just select no stretch disable from here and paste it here. So these were all the configurations that need to be made for using our I2C peripheral, right? So the whole structure is configured now. Now we want to put all this data in our main function that initializes the whole I2C. So for that, which function is used? So if you go to the header file, hall file, then you can see the function hall underscore I2C underscore init. Okay, so just copy it and paste it in this file. Okay, and in the argument it is asking for the handler. Okay, so just remove this. Okay, and as this is a pointer, I will have to use it like this, and the name of our handler. Okay, hi2c1. So now your initializing function is complete, but you need to add another function also, that is I2C underscore MSP in it. Okay, so we have to include that function into this function, but first of all let us define that. Okay, so now the next function that we are going to define is void I2C underscore MSP init, right? So what is the first thing that needs to be done in the MSP initializing file? So for that you need to go open your GPIO of drivers, because we have to basically configure the GPIO pins for I2C. Okay, so select this handler for configuring GPIO, copy this and paste it here and give it a name GPIO underscore init struct. Right, now after that what will you do? So after this after this we will initialize or enable the clock for I2C peripheral. Okay, so now we have to initialize the peripheral clock. So for that you need to go to the legacy file again, that is the one from which we defined our port clock. So if you scroll down, then you can see I2C1 clock enable. Okay, so just copy it and paste it over here. Okay, so now your port clock is also initialized, right? So now what you need to do, so now let us configure this structure. Okay, so I'll copy it and paste it over here. And what is the first parameter that we want to configure? So it is pin. So our I2C basically resides on pin number 8 and 9, that is our data pin and clock pin, that is SDA and SCK. They both reside on pin number 8 and pin number 9 of our microcontroller of port B. What will I put in the as an input here? So for that go to your gpio.h file, and in that, so for GPIO any pin between 1 to 15 or all pins if you want to select, just select the appropriate macros. So we want to select pin number 8 and 9, right? So I'll just select this GPIO underscore pin underscore 8 and I'll copy it, and I'll OR this with GPIO pin number 9. Okay, like this. Okay, so both the pins are now selected, pin 8 and 9, right? Now the next thing that we want to configure is mode. So in which mode do we want to uh, use these pins? Okay, so for that also macros are available. So you can you have these many modes for using. So we are going to use our pins in this mode, that is alt open drain mode. So I'll just copy it and I'll paste it over here, right? The next thing we want to configure is pull. Okay, so whether you want to use your pin in pull up mode, pull down mode, or no pull mode, so that also can be selected from here. Okay, so for pull, it is available. You have three options: no pull, pull up, or pull down. So we will use no pull. Okay, so the next one is speed. Okay, so what is the speed you want to configure for this pin? You can basically set the frequency for this particular pin, right? So you have four options here for low speed, medium, fast, and high. Okay, so we'll keep our speed as fast. So the final parameter now, that is alternate. So for selecting alternate, you need to open this file, that is hall underscore GPIO underscore ex.h file. So if you open this, then you can see that alternate functions for all the peripherals are given over here, right? So for alternate functions mean every pin has multiple functions. So how do we want to use that particular pin? So for that, you can select alternate pin for I2C1 here, right? We are using I2C1, so let us select the alternate pin for that. So I'll just copy it and I'll paste it over here, right? So now your GPIO structure is basically configured. Okay, so now what will you do? We have to put now this all these parameters into a function to execute, right? So just go to your gpio.h file, and in there you can find the function hall underscore gpio underscore init, and it takes two arguments. The first is the handler structure that we just configured right now, and the next is the GPIO port, right? Sorry, it is other way around. The first is the GPIO port and the next one is the handler structure. So I'll just copy it and I'll paste it over here. So we want to define, put the GPIO port here first of all. So it is GPIO port B. Okay, and the handler structure's name is GPIO init struct, right? So I'll just copy it and paste it over here. Right, so now your function is ready and your whole I2C peripheral is defined. So just copy this function, right? This void, this MSP init function into your main I2C underscore init function. Okay, so just copy it here. Right. So now the initialization portion for our I2C peripheral is completed. Okay, so just save it and we will learn more in the upcoming lectures.